So, a bit of great news. My map is finally done. Yeah, so I've completed all the systems and mechanics I want to input and, have here in my little hub world, where you essentially download the map, you start here in 00, and all of these massive command block structures are modifying the world around us. But there is still one substantial issue with the map that I need to fix before I can obviously release it. So if we take a look at this menu, the TPS lag over here. So ticks per second, 20. If it drops below 20, that's when you notice tick lag and you can't place blocks, you can't destroy blocks, you can't hit entities, or they stutter. Currently, we are in the red, literally. Yeah, so these bars indicate the milliseconds on average that it takes for a tick to respond. I think that's my understanding. So we're anywhere between 36 on the minimum side and 54 on the maximum, which is really, really bad. So I need to do something to this world to fix the command blocks, to make it so that they don't cause as much server stress as they are right now. And initially, the idea I had was to try to filter out certain things. So for instance, on these commands right, I have this little segment, execute at all, run execute if entities within 8 blocks. The reason I put this little filter is it was an attempt by me to essentially filter the amount of entities that are detected, because it was my belief that entity detection is by far the greatest cause of tick lag. However, I think I'm wrong in that matter. I think it doesn't matter what commands you use, it's just obviously how many commands you run per tick. So all these repeating command blocks are atrocious because they are running every tick. So each one of these is one process or bit of information that the server has to process every tick. So 20 times a second times every single purple block that you see, plus there's some undercover. So I think we'll spend a little bit of time today in a super flat world trying to sort of decipher what exactly causes tick lags when it comes to command blocks, and what I can do exactly to fix everything here and make it so, this map is playable by the majority. Because for instance, memory-wise, it's not using a lot, even though the response time is pretty bad. It's like old school Aussie games when you played RuneScape or something and you just had, you had ping in the hundreds and you just dealt with it. So I could power through, I can play the map, but obviously I would like to get it down to, well, not non-existent because that would be impossible, but maybe the green to yellow range instead of this orange to red. So let's hop into a creative world and get to work. Right, so here we are on a super flat world, done a little bit of preliminary testing, and we'll sort of go through the discoveries I have made. As you can see, tick lag, there is none. It's 1 millisecond, and as you can see, there is a slight green whenever I obviously load new chunks. If I travel far enough, it should pulse. Yeah, there we go, we got a little flicker. So right now it's perfect. The game is incredibly playable. Obviously there are no entities. I've disabled everything because I want to just look at the tick lag that commands actually cause. So first off, we are going to essentially fill a little square with repeating command blocks. I've set auto to 1. This means that they are on, but there is no command within the command block. So I'm curious to see if it causes any tick lag. So we turn it on. Ooh, it did not save because I clicked cancel, turn it on. And as you can see, aside from the initial startup, which was that little green spike, these command blocks don't cause any issues while they are on. Okay, so then the next step is to test a basic command. So again, I personally thought entity detection was the issue. So for instance, if I were to do this command, same thing, we're filling with the repeating command blocks, but it now has a command inside it. So execute if entity at E, run weather clear. So it's going to scan every loaded entity in the world and then determine to run weather clear. So we will get rid of it and bring it back. And as you can see, we now do have tick lag. We have, well, it's still growing. I'd like to see where it caps off at. It's, well, we can see the maximum. So we'll say 30. So baseline just from this small block, it's, what is it? It is 5 by 5 by 5. So 25 roughly, give or take 1 or 2. We can count it. And yeah, you can see there's some frame rate issues and stuttering. So 5 by 5 by 6, it looks like. So what would that be? 525, 150. There's 150 command blocks here running all at the same time, and it is causing about 30 milliseconds of lag, and it spikes when I do move about, it looks like. Or I wonder if any entities spawn. So it's another thing I do want to test. So again, this command doesn't have any relation to the entities we are detecting, but I do want to see if summoning a bunch of entities does cause this to spike. So we'll wait for that little red bar to go, and we will just do summon husks, since they don't burn, and we'll just summon one. So technically, this block of repeating command blocks is now going to scan one husk 20 times a second times 150. So we should see a spike. I'm curious about this red spike now. It seems to be appearing every... It's almost 10-second cycle, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, definitely. I'm obviously counting a little bit quick. But yeah, so if we summon a husk... Okay, so that's that solution solved. These scanning a husk don't actually cause any issues. The next sort of test, I want to do execute if entity husk. So type equals Minecraft .husk. So what this means is now that this command actually has a test clause. So it's testing to see if there is a husk, meaning if there's not a husk, it should return false and it won't run the weather clear. I'm curious to see if this still causes a abundance of tick lag, even though the commands are technically incomplete. So we will kill this guy off. Perfect. And we will try this out again. So we'll summon our blocks. And look at that. While there is no husk, no commands are running. So the test clause in itself does not cause any lag. This is really important to me because it means that me using a test clause to run X commands will have a substantial impact on the amount of tick lag. If I can filter every command so that they only run under their pinpoint circumstances, then I should be able to cut down on the tick lag. So if we summon the husk, all of them should kick off. Yep, and as you can see, we jump back up to, we'll eventually reach that 30 milliseconds. So that is really, really good to note. It pretty much answers the majority of my questions, to be honest. I did just want to compare repeating command blocks and normal command blocks. I did that backwards, but I think I can explain it as it is fairly easily. So we'll get out of this. So for instance, a normal command block obviously runs whenever it is pulsed. Due to the way the game works, as quick as you can be, it would still be one tick, right? So technically, they can run at the same speed if you were to do fill and replace, say, a redstone column. I don't know if they would activate on that same tick. I think you still need a 2-tick interval, meaning 1 tick to place the redstone, 1 tick to clear it, and then on that second tick is when the command block would activate. But essentially, using that method, they would both be running at 20 ticks a second, which is the big issue. This is highly inefficient because of that 20 ticks a second. What I do want to do is I want to set up a timer quickly and see if we time gate this, how much it impacts the TPS. So we'll use the same circumstances, we'll leave this in, but I will set up a timer to now gate it behind finding the entity and running only on X tick. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set up the timer mechanism. So you can see it there on the scoreboard. Tick is counting to 20. I am sorry for the clutter. Obviously, I need this screen open to actually observe what we are testing. And then I've also adjusted this command, so it's now execute if entity closest player scores tick is equal to 2. So it only runs 1 tick out of that whole second. So if we go ahead and turn it on, just double check the command. Yep, so I typed out right, there's nothing red. And now if we summon our husk, yeah, we should theoretically see a spike, but it is not. How curious. So by gating it to 1 tick, it is dramatically increased. So gating it to 1 tick has dramatically decreased the amount of tick lag it causes. Just to double check that I'm not insane, we'll get rid of that clause. You know, instead we will make it greater than 1, so it should run continuously. Restart it. There is a husk, but it is still not running. But according to my internal clock, it's still running every second. Isn't this intriguing? So even though it's running every tick, 1 through 20, what we are seeing now is that a repeating command block apparently runs more than 20 times a second. That's the only observable outcome for this scenario. The repeating command block has to be running more than 20 times a second for it to cause this level of tick lag. No, now I'm insane. Do I have a typo? Execute if entity. They're all there, but there is no tick lag now. I am deeply confused. They're all always on. Weather's being cleared. Just to double check, we'll do weather rain. No rain, no change in it. But now there is no tick lag. How curious. I mean, I have the filmed footage. Prove it. We'll get rid of if entity husk. Maybe I spelt it wrong. We'll just do weather clear again. It's there, and it's not causing any tick lag. Okay, I'm going to take a break and watch the footage back, because I have no idea what's going on there. 12, 13, so they should all be operating. But there is no tick lag now. Because I set up the scoreboard? That's the only observable solution. That's just really confusing to me. Okay, let me look at the footage. Okay, so watching the footage back, it turns out that the issue causing the TPS, or the tick lag, was this game rule command. So if we turn it back to true, because that's the one thing that I changed, with it outputting what commands are going on to the chat, it is causing the tick lag. So if we turn it back off, there is no issue. So that means that the type of command is related to the amount of tick lag it causes. So for instance, if we were to say, increase this size to 15, 15, 15, make sure I got the cleanup as well, this should maybe cause some level of tick lag, but not as much as having the game rule on. Yeah, so it does. Okay. Oh, this complicates things further, because it means I need to examine every type of command I'm using and figure out which ones are causing the most server stress. I know off the top of my head one of the biggest ones that does cause server issues is the attribute command. Regardless of whether or not it's actually reapplying the attribute, it is probably one of the most intensive commands because of it directly modifying NPT data. Weirdly enough, I'm pretty sure it is worse than the data merge command for whatever reason. So if we change this from weather clear to what have I done wrong? I've copied the whole thing. That's what I've done wrong. So we change weather clear to just the command section of what I'm looking for, which is attributes, modify, add. Perfect. I'm curious to see if this causes more. So we'll get rid of it, and it does. Okay, so the attribute command is essentially, from looking at the chart, double the intensity of the run weather command. Is double the intensity of the run weather command. It's very, very intriguing and definitely complicates things further. I guess we test it with... No, that was wrong. We add in the tick stuff. So change this to @p, and we'll do scores equal to tick equal to... So it's running 1 tick out of 20. So 1 every second. You've got a little bar there, so I want to build it straight away. Okay, that is also an issue. So limiting it to 1 tick out of the 20 does not decrease it by... Well, it still decreases it by a amount, but it's not a substantial amount. Which means that my method of filtering may may not work. Okay, so what have we learned? We know that using some sort of test mechanic causes no tick lag. So any execute if statement, any sort of statement that is quantifying something for a command to run, does not impact the amount of TPS. What does impact the amount of TPS is the type of command, and obviously to some degree at least, the repeating command block running every tick. Ooh, okay, so I have a relatively tough job ahead of me to actually cut down on tick lag. So what that means is for my map here, there is a couple things I need to look at on every command. We will come up here to sort of where I've built. I was going through them slowly and fixing them up. I will probably go back to an earlier save version and undo all the work I've done. What to do then? Yeah, so any of these ones that just have execute at is the issue. Is it though? Because technically the back portion of this command shouldn't run. So execute at shouldn't have any impact. You know what? Easiest way to test this. Hopefully it doesn't pause. Perfect. Sorry, my pause recording is home, which is obviously how I copy that easily. But I just want to see if I stick this command in here, will it cause any substantial amount of tick lag outside of, I think it was like 10 or 20. So what don't you like? There's probably slashes or something. No, it's these. They need the forward slashes, correct? Yeah. Okay, and that was the only one? Yep. Right, Alt F3. So it does cause issues. Interesting. Substantial issues. So the red bars or is when the full system is running. No. Actually, don't know what that is. That's obviously relating to timer mechanism, or should be. Also, that's actually worth noting. I did not have the scoreboard system running when we were testing the attribute command. So the repeating command blocks in themselves appear to have some sort of baseline, right? If you have enough of them turned on, it causes an issue. I still think they need some sort of command, but that command can be anything, as long as it has some merit to it. What's going on? I've deleted way too much. I really want to just use home, but obviously I can't. Okay, so if we do that, we'll get rid of it. Yeah, so this amount of repeating command blocks does have some strain on the system, not substantial. That command system was actually running, but was still causing a fair amount of lag. Ooh. This is very, very tricky to understand. We'll do that again. Clear it. It's running right now. What can I do to this statement to make it cause less tick lag? That's essentially all I have to look at. So we're doing execute at. If I add my player statement, execute at nearest player, run execute at entities, but we will limit the distance to .1. Does this reduce the amount of tick lag? It does substantially. Okay, so we're going back and forth. This essentially means that what I was doing is the correct thing to do. By gating it, I am reducing the amount of lag. I'm curious though, if I increase it to a chunk. So in terms of chunks, it's what? The first chunk you're in, entities are loaded and operate. And then in the surrounding chunks to that one chunk, they are loaded but do not operate. So that means, what is it, 16, so 32, 48. 48 blocks across is the amount of entities, is like the largest range you can detect entities. So I increase it to 16. It does not. But obviously there are no entities around us for it to piggyback off of. So it is probably best if... So, okay, if I summon a husk, I summon an entity. It does improve because that entity doesn't meet the required... Oh, no. It doesn't improve because this is wrong, apparently. Why is this wrong? Because I completely forgot execute at. Execute at entity. Oops. Yeah, so it does cause issue. If we, again, go down to 1, so doing backwards now, it is slightly higher, but often the same. And then, of course, if we get rid of that statement altogether, it is now much worse. Okay, so gating it is definitely the right thing to do. However, gating it does not factor in as much as I think, because as long as it is a entity for it to register, it is still going to cause issues. So it's still going to scan all entities regardless of what type of entity you've specified, meaning that I need a way to filter the filter, so to speak. So this is obviously looking for just glow item frames, but I need it to only activate for maybe one command block that's controlling the time mechanism. So that time mechanism only runs if the player is near a glow item frame, as well as adding in this distance requirement, which is actually really, really good. Because it means a lot of the groundwork I was doing here is still factual. The limits and testing that I have applied to all the different blocks here is correct, is the right thing to do. So for instance, these should have the same sort of filter. Yeah, execute at all, run if entities within 8 blocks. So this is reducing the amount of entities that are scanned. It appears, to me at least, though I might be wrong, it's nothing to test, that the distance portion does filter. You know, before I talk out my ass, so to speak, we'll test it. Okay, so we're back. We're doing, was it execute at... Oh, I've gone too far. Should we execute at... No, I cleared it, right? Yeah. Execute at entity. We'll do us again. You know, I will do at all. And then run executes within a distance of 1. So, the question is, our little husk friend, which I think we did sort of see when he was walking away. Because right now, if we were to put him in here, and I were to turn this on, step 3, we have this level of tick, flag. No, I've caused issues again. What is the issues? What don't you like? Executes at entity. What's wrong with that? At doesn't need the entity. Okay. I so miss just having the syntax. Like in here where it autofills. Let's try again. Yeah, so that's the baseline. Baseline is horrible. We move closer. There is no change. That initial change was chunks loading, but what this means is regardless of the distance you put, it is still testing every loaded entity, which is really bad. It means I need to gate every system to only run when their conditions are met, which is really bad because a lot of systems that do a similar thing, just with different circumstances, I've built together, and obviously I would need to separate them in some manner to make it run correctly. Oh, it's really, really worrisome. Okay, let's just look at an example. So for instance, this is the worst system I have. It is the system that modifies the data of weapons, armor, items. The attribute modify system, that's what I'm trying to say. It fixes modifies to items. And I have gated it, so now this mechanism, execute if player timer matches, run execute at all at an item in a distance of 8. This in itself is still scanning, so essentially I need to filter the filters. Yeah. So for instance, I have 5 variations here that are the conditions that have to be met to activate this system. I now need a second clause that activates these. That's the issue we're working with. But also I need to move them away because right now if I put redstone here, it would still work. Okay. It's really good to cement our understanding, obviously, but it does mean I have a lot of work, and I'm not too sure if I need to start again, undo all the work I have done, and go from there. For instance, this system. So we know that this distance doesn't matter. This is pointless. The timer mechanism. So this is execute at p run 3. So actually, I don't know why I have the timer doubled up. If entity is fine to use, essentially we want to filter down every repeating command block into a single execute if entity in range. But I would also I'd want to use a different motive than entity, because again, in terms of what we have found, commands have a increase in server stress or TPS lag depending on what they do. Detecting entities is still an issue, it's just not the main issue as I had thought. But we still need a way to filter everything. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to go to the chopping board and figure stuff out, but we'll leave it. A little bit of discovery. Hope you enjoyed.